it's still one QB comparison I looked at. If him and Rivers, so it makes sense to me.
Okay, 1 second, guys. Let's just get that up. All right, we're rolling. Welcome in everybody to the Clubhouse Sports Podcast. Today we're going to do a overall draft recap, touch on a bunch of different things. We'll start top of the screen. Jackson, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Jackson. I'm a writer for the Colts at Times Q Pod.
Mike, going down to you.
I'm Mike. I'm from Big Rig on Sports. I have done a bunch of draft stuff with Frank and also some NBA stuff.
Nate?
I'm Nate. I do the DB breakdowns once every 2 weeks. That's it, basically. That's my thing.
All right, great. I think that's the order we'll go back when we're going back and forth on points. I think that's what we should go from top to bottom. But we'll start with everybody's overall thoughts on the draft. Jackson, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks going in the top 10 was big. I really did not like Herbert so high. I think Herbert's not a good quarterback. But Isaiah Simmons falling big. Kinlaw fell. The receivers fell a lot more than I thought they would. But, yeah.
All right, Mike?
The draft interrupted my sleep when Green Bay took Jordan Love, and it woke me up because my phone absolutely exploded. I love this draft. Frank, you and I had a blast the other night. I've actually watched the video again.
Yep.
It was a good draft and got a lot of value too. I was more surprised Tristan Wirfs dropped as far as he did, but outside of that, I was pretty. Listen, I'm wearing all the Ohio State gear. I was pretty happy.
Nate, what'd you think?
It was my first draft actually being really into the draft process and everything. So I didn't realize how deep drafts really are. You can go all the way to the 4th round and you still got prospects in there. But Tristan Wirfs falling, that was the Jets picking Mekhi Becton blew my mind. Wirfs falling, Simmons falling, that blew my mind. And the receivers, I was like, all right, there's plenty of receivers on the board, so I'm not surprised that Mims is in the 2nd round and all those top dogs were in the 2nd round. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that's being said. I mean, the only thing I'd add, and I think Nate touched on it a little bit, is this was probably the deepest draft that for me and Nate, I'm assuming because we're about the same age, and maybe Jackson, I don't know, the deepest draft that I've seen and experienced in terms of talent level, especially in that 1st and 2nd round. But as always, you're always getting athletic guys in the 4th and 5th. But yeah, that's the only thing I'd add. So I guess we'll move to what surprised you overall. Jackson, why don't you take the floor?
The second group of tackles that Josh Jones, Cleveland, and Pert, they fell a lot farther than I thought they were going to be.
All right.
I won't go with surprise. I'll go with pissed me off, and that was J.K. Dobbins going to Baltimore.
Agreed. I have an entire list of shockers, but what really got my blood boiling, I'd have to say, was Green Bay. What are you trying to say to Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. He's been the top quarterback, top 3 for the past 15 years, and you want to just be like, oh, hey, we're just going to draft this rookie quarterback that's thrown 18 interceptions last year? Hey, what are you trying to say? That got me thinking for a bit.
Yeah.
They did the same thing to Favre.
Yeah, they're at the same age, too, which kind of had me.
Yeah, it's 15 years to the day, believe it or not.
Had me on edge. It's crazy.
Rodgers' attitude seemed, I think he had a quote around March that he was saying if they did draft a quarterback, I know my time's coming to an end, but it's not ended in yet, and I'm gonna beat the guy that comes in. So that's the right attitude to have.
Jackson, I'm going to give a shout out to one of your boys in Indy, and you've got to go back on YouTube and watch Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk talk to Rodgers that night. Of course, I love Luck for one reason. McAfee's a cult, but yeah, Aaron actually said in that interview, because I went back and watched that too, that basically he was looking for a weapon, and they drafted his replacement.
Yeah.
Thank God the team was owned by the city, because someone would be getting hate mail.
Yeah, so I guess should create some banter. Who do you guys think had the best draft as a team overall?
I think the Cardinals is up there.
I was gonna say the Cardinals too, Jackson. Why do you say that?
Simmons, I think in their shoes, they thought there's no way that Simmons is falling to us, and we're just gonna go ahead and take the best tackle available. But Simmons fell, and I think they make the right decision there. And then second round, like they basically took DeAndre Hopkins. Third round, they took Josh Jones, who was a first round talent at a position of need. So I forget. I don't know who they took after that. Yeah, they took Fotu. I think he's a 3 technique from Utah. Yeah, he's good too.
Yeah, the thing I was gonna say about the Cardinals is the value. You said Simmons at 8, and then the other position of need there would have been like a Wirfs or a Becton or a Wills even. Everybody was on the board there except for Andrew Thomas. And you get Simmons, and then Josh Jones fell all the way to the third round, like you said. So, yeah, I would say the Cardinals. And if not the Cardinals, probably just shout out to all the NFC East teams. I mean, the Giants, which I'm going to talk about in a separate episode because I want to go deeper on the later round prospects. But Xavier McKinney and Andrew Thomas. Xavier McKinney is so versatile and so powerful and fast and all the things you look for in a modern safety. Best safety in the draft, and you're going to get him at 36. And then the Eagles. I mean, you add speed in the receiving core, and then you get Jalen Hurts, which was kind of weird. But the RPO thing and the creativity on offense that Doug Peterson can bring, obviously, it's weird to take him in the second. But then you get the other maybe position of need, still DB, and you add depth with Kayvon Wallace, who's very physical and is a good ball separator. So I think that's very good. And then the Cowboys, I mean, CeeDee Lamb at 17, and then Trayvon Diggs in the second round. So that's great value as well. And then shout out to the quarterback they took in the 7th. Our site head at Timeskew actually interviewed him before the draft. So that's cool. But Nate, what did you think? And then we'll go to Mike.
I had a few winners. I had the Carolina Panthers, based on strict D line in the first 2 rounds. You get Yetur Gross-Matos and you get Derek Brown, 2 of the arguably best D linemen in the draft. Well, they are the Chase Young obviously is miles ahead of Yetur, but they beefed up that D line. Their run defense is going to be amazing. Not amazing, but it's going to be developing next year. I also had the 49ers. They found a replacement for DeForest Buckner. And now that they're in the Robert Salah era, their D line is amazing. You got Nick Bosa to lead the way. Well, he's not leading the way, but you do have a winning defensive line, and you got a replacement for Emmanuel Sanders. You got Brandon Ayuk, and I think that it's just they filled those voids that they had previously with those 2 young players, and they can develop them very well. So Carolina and San Francisco were my 2 winners for the draft for sure.
Yeah, I think they're up there too. Mike, you mentioned the Ravens. Expand on that.
Listen, Patrick Queen in round 1 down at the bottom. You take a dynamic running back who I have enjoyed watching for 3 years, J.K. Dobbins, to pair with Lamar Jackson.
Hey, where's that fan?
Do we have to go any further? Oh, yeah, they took Devin Duvernay in the later on in the draft, who's a good wide receiver out of Texas. The rich got richer in this draft with the Ravens. It was a great draft. And I'm going to play Homer. And I'm going to say my Cleveland Browns had a great draft.
Yeah, they did.
Jedrick Wills at 10. Frank, we had Delpit. How many times we thought he was going in the first round, and Delpit falls to the Browns after they traded back to 44. Jordan Elliott, D tackle, a little more beef on that line. Personally, I think Clowney's next, but that's just me. And then you get Jacob Phillips out of LSU because apparently the Browns just want to draft dudes from LSU. to replace Joe Schobert, who went to Jacksonville. And believe it or not, as much as it pains me to say it with what you guys see I'm wearing here, Donovan Peoples-Jones is a nice wide receiver to have for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add.
Say that you guys have no idea.
The only thing I'd add to both Nate and Mike's points is first that Mike, I said to you a couple times with Chase Young on the Redskins, Montez Sweat and him are going to be a good complement to each other, and you could say the same for Derek Brown and YGM. And then secondly, I think the Ravens adding Patrick Queen, replacing C.J. Mosley pretty much because very similar player builds with less coverage, but more physicality and aggressiveness, as well as agility and speed and just overall pop. But and then you get J.K. Dobbins and the things you can do with Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins with John Harbaugh coaching. It's that's just insane. And on the same note, the Kansas City Chiefs with first that comes to mind is the LSU running back. That fantasy dynasty people all over the world are celebrating this weekend. And then just the dynamic of that is obviously awesome. But then you get Willie Gay in the second round. He's very athletic with high upside. There's a bunch of guys like that, but I think he can really be a good linebacker. So yeah, that's another team that got better, like the 49ers as well. So I guess the next point I want to touch on is you mentioned Delpit falling. Obviously, guys fall all the time, but you had Delpit, first round talent, who fell to 41. McKinney, who fell to 36, not that far. But AJ Epineza, who I mean, it's just like the guys that were falling. That was surprising, and Christian Fulton as well. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
You were very high on Fulton, Frank. Like I said, I rewatched what you and I did on Thursday night, and you had mentioned Fulton a couple times. I think once it was to the Raiders before they took my boy David Arnett, and the other one, I think you had mentioned him or Delpit going to Dallas before they took CeeDee Lamb. I wasn't as surprised with the safeties falling because for some reason the last few years the safeties just haven't been going high. I will tell you, as a Browns fan, I was shocked that Delpit was at 44. I was blown away.
Yeah, I think the thing about the safeties before I let Nate and Jackson jump in is that you have in today's NFL, obviously, what comes to mind first is that multiple DB set that the Chargers threw at the Ravens. That was when it really started. But Miami's defense now is when you have that, they have 18 and 26, and a lot of movement rotation from New England. Brian Flores is there now. McKinney or Delpit would have fell or fit perfectly in there. And I'm glad the Giants took McKinney because you have Patrick Graham from that defense, and we're going to do a lot of fun things with all those safeties. Yeah, it's just surprising because we're in today's NFL where I said it to Sean, Nate, before, you can't ever have too many defensive backs, especially at the talent level they were at. But Jackson, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, the biggest one for me was Epinesa. I wanted him at both the Colts second-round picks. But like I said, Denzel Mims another big one. I thought he was going to go top of the second or late first. Jeremy Chin, he was a product of the safeties falling. Yeah, that's about it.
I think Miami really. I was on the fence about Miami and how they drafted. Excuse me if I'm messing up his last name, but Noah Igbinoghene. That guy.
I refuse to say it.
That's pretty close. That's the closest I've heard.
Yeah, he's a great man-to-man corner, but you have Byron Jones, you have Xavier Howard. I don't know what they're trying to implement there. You do have Brian Flores now, so you never know what they're going to do as far as defense goes, but you're going to have to change from that 3-4-3. You're going to move to a nickel defense. Like, I'm confused why they're drafting cornerbacks. That really threw me off. As far as the DBs went, Grant Delpit to the Browns, that was like mind blowing. You got Grant Delpit, you got Greedy, now you have Denzel Ward. That's like I said, you can never have too many DBs. And Xavier McKinney, like that's Julian Love. Obviously, he was a corner in Notre Dame, moved to safety. But he and Jabril Peppers, I like to say that they're both subpar safeties, but Xavier McKinney is going to give that nice physicality, and he's going to do good things in New York.
Yeah, I think with Xavier McKinney, the last thing I want to add is the versatility. Like I said, he's going to be able to play nickelbacker on a defense that's going to play a lot of man coverage, and he could also maybe play sandbacker, cover tight ends and wide receivers down. And even if not, if you're not going to put him at sandbacker, just put him down in the slot. I mean, he's fast and he's big, so especially with the help, and then he can hang over the fast guys that we're adding to this division. We have CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, and Terry McLaurin from last year. So it's good. It's nice. I'm excited. But I guess we'll move quickly to overall team, your specific team, teams that you're fans of. What you thought of the draft. Jackson, we'll start with you and the Colts.
Yeah, so I thought Pittman was a really good pick, especially after T. Higgins went. So the run on the receivers is going to go. He's a big body, jump ball catcher. It's a good compliment to Ty. Then we traded up 3 spots to get Jonathan Taylor, and at the time, I didn't like the pick. We just have so much depth already at running back. Yeah, he's a great player, but like I just felt that in a team that's kind of on the bubble from contending, we should have went more at one of the first round guys that fell in a position of need. I really wanted Epinesa. Then
Same.
we took Julian Blackman in the 3rd. He's a corner safety. He fell because of an ACL injury, and he probably won't be able to start until August or September. So that's a good value pick. Then Easton in the 4th is really good value. There's talks of him in the late 1st. I think him coming to Indianapolis is one of the best teams for him to go to, because he needs to sit for a minute, sit behind a future Hall of Famer, and with a great offensive line as well. Then we took some really good special teams players in the 6th and 7th, and got some more wide receiver depth too. So overall, I'm happy with it, but I think it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree. As on the outside looking in, I think you stated it perfectly. Obviously, you're closer with the Colts than I am, but yeah, nothing to add. I probably shouldn't add anything. It's not my bit. But Mike, do you have anything to add about the Browns?
Yeah, like I said, just going back over the top. I mean, Jedrick Wills was the biggest need. The Browns have needed a left tackle since Joe Thomas retired. Grant Delpit falling to 44 was just absolutely phenomenal. Jordan Elliott, the D tackle out of Missouri. Ogunjobi's going to be doing a contract soon. Same thing with Sheldon Richardson. So adding that depth is going to help. I like Jacob Phillips to replace Schobert, as I said. And then I sent a buddy of mine a text message today. Why in God's name are the Browns drafting a tight end? And I couldn't get a good answer out of anybody. They took Harrison Bryant later in the draft. Nick Harris, a center, to give J.C. Treader a little bit of depth there. And, of course, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, I don't like his choice of schools he went to, but he's a good target. And you don't have to be the man. You have 1 and 1A in Odell and Jarvis. Hollywood Higgins is still there. You have Hooper now and Njoku. He's going to fit in very nice, and I love him returning punts. He's very, very good on special teams. Haven't had a good special teams guy like that for the Browns since Josh Cribbs. So overall, I'm very happy with the Browns draft. I think they need to make 1 or 2 moves in free agency to tweak the roster. But outside of that, I can't complain about it.
All right, sounds good. Nate, I'll let you riff on the Seahawks.
Round 1, casually sitting in my living room, just like, all right, we got the Seahawks. We're gonna go at Vanessa. We're gonna go at DN, right? No, we got Jordan Brooks. At first, I'm like, all right, who the hell is this guy? Later on, I watched the press conferences. I did my research. Kid is a stud. He's a leader. He can stretch the field. He can play inside linebacker. He can play outside linebacker. For sure, he's going to replace Michael Kendricks this year. He's definitely going to start, so that's amazing. Darrell Taylor in the second round, he really reminded me of like just an athlete who can play anywhere in the box. So it's an edge rusher. I'm not complaining. As far as Damian Lewis goes, guard out of LSU line, they protected Joe Burrow. I'm not like that's another thing I can't complain about. You got Colby Parkinson, tight end out of Stanford, and then we also picked Steven Sullivan, another tight end out of LSU. So I was upset we picked 2 tight ends. I feel like that was a waste of draft picks. DJ Dallas. I've heard a lot of comparisons about him. He's a running back from Miami. A lot of comparisons of him and Chris Carson. And after watching his film, he looks exactly like Chris Carson. So, and with his contract coming soon, and then Rashad Penny coming off an injury, it's great to have more depth at running back. I was hoping we'd pick a running back in the second or third round. Didn't happen. We got DJ, so that's no problem. And Alton Robinson, we got another defensive end in the 5th. So I mean, more depth as Clowney. We were trying to make a trade with Jags, but that never happened. For either Fournette or for either Yannick, but that just didn't happen. But I'm happy. We added depth at the linebacker position. We added depth at the defensive end position. We didn't really need tight ends as Jacob Hollister fills in that spot, but I'd give our draft class like a B- if I had to like grade it. So I can't complain.
All right. Before I want to bring up an interesting conversation now that Nate's a Seahawks fan, Mike's a Browns fan, and he mentioned that he thought Clowney could end up on the Browns. We'll talk about that in a second. But just wrap up on the Giants. I guess my overall thoughts were I'm very happy with this draft. It's probably the best it could have gone for them. There's a couple little nitpicks I'm going to make. Like maybe we take Wirfs at 4, but like that's a nitpick. I mean, the difference between Thomas and Wirfs is like marginal. So that's great. McKinney's great. We talked about it all. But the continued depth on the offensive line and the versatility you're getting in Payart and even the kid from Oregon, very aggressive. And he uses his hands well from what I've seen. I want to watch a little bit more. But, yeah, the tackle from UConn, I wrote a whole article on him already, and I'm very excited for his athleticism and his upside, and he could probably start in the next 2 or 3 years. So the offensive line finally is going to get some fun things to do with Saquon and Daniel Jones, I should say, are finally going to get some fun things to do. Shout out to Eli for missing that for the back half of his career. Yeah, but this wasn't in the plans. But before we circle back to the overall thoughts on the draft, Mike, why do you think Jadeveon Clowney, or what do you think Jadeveon Clowney would add to the Cleveland Browns?
You're talking about adding another dynamic pass rusher to the opposite end of Myles Garrett, who's going to play so angry this year, it's not even funny. When you have an interior of Ogunjobi and Sheldon Richardson, and you have bookends of Clowney and Garrett, that is, first of all, you need that kind of athleticism on the line, especially playing Baltimore now with Dobbins and with what we've seen Lamar do. You've got to hit him. You've got to be able to run him down. The Browns are weaker in the linebacker position, which they won't really need to be the greatest at linebacker. If they have these 2 guys on the end that can get to the quarterback quickly, you won't see too many things in the second level. That line will make the safeties and the corners, Denzel, Greedy, Delpit, they'll make them better by giving them an easier chance to not have the ball thrown their way, because you're going to be in somebody's face right away. Are they going to get Clowney? I would love to see it. They've been talking to him, but if they don't, I still like the Browns defense. I just think it could be better with Clowney.
Oh, yeah. And Nate, what are you missing with Clowney off the team?
I'm just missing how disruptive he was. He's not going to line up the stats. He's not going to give you 2 sacks a game. He's not going to give you 20 sacks a season. But what he's going to do is he's going to make the quarterback shake in his boots. He's going to make the quarterback run the other way. He's not going to be totally neglecting the left side of the field. He's going to be scared. He's going to keep the quarterback rattled the entire game, and he's going to make running backs bounce off the ball the entire way. And the way he disrupts plays are just amazing. And I sort of see that with Darrell Taylor, but that's like a far-fetched comparison. But he's just the same way Jadeveon is an athlete is the same way Darrell is an athlete. So I mean, I'm excited to see what Darrell can do, but I'm gonna miss Jadeveon as far as his ability to just make plays or not even make plays, just be disruptive, like I said.
All right, I think that's solid. Jackson, we'll circle back to the draft real quick as we wrap up. Was there any final thoughts you wanted to give on what you thought overall, or some teams that we haven't mentioned yet?
I think another team is the Broncos taking Judy and Hamler first and second round. I think with Sutton, I think they're giving Drew Lock all the weapons, and they took Albert O, who's really fast tight end. So I mean, they're giving him the weapons, and we'll see if they can hang with the Chiefs in the AFC West.
Hopefully soon. Mike, what your wrap-up thoughts?
Yeah, I'm getting sick of the Baltimore Ravens. Start there. No, I was impressed with obviously the Browns draft. The Ravens draft was also very good. I'm still kind of shocked that a lot of the corners went where they did. I mean, Okuda was almost a guarantee. As much as I love it, I am still shocked Damon Arnett went in the first round. AJ Terrell to Atlanta, where they went, was just. And I am scared to play San Francisco when Kinlaw and Nick Bosa are trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
Tell me about it.
That and, there's not a whole lot of hair on my head to begin with, but if I was a Packer fan, the rest of it would be gone. Because they basically tried to shut Aaron up by drafting A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon's not a good pass catcher, guys. He's a ball running back, and how do you have 30 straight years of Favre and Rodgers and go to 3 Super Bowls and only win 2? How? You don't draft wide receivers. You don't draft good tight ends. That's how.
Yeah, I mean, everything you touched on is wonderfully put. Nate, what are your closing thoughts?
What the hell were the Falcons doing? That's about the entire draft. They made AJ Terrell as a desperation pick, and I've seen it everywhere in the headlines about the Atlanta Inside. AJ Terrell was a desperation pick, and as a Seahawks fan, I'm looking at the 49ers D-line, and I'm not ready to mentally take on the responsibility of having to play the 49ers 2 times a year this year. And the Cowboys, I hate the Cowboys as much as Stephen A hates the Cowboys. But CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs, and then they picked the best center in the draft. I can't complain. They made good draft decisions, and they have good value. It's just this draft was very interesting, but Atlanta sucked ass. That's number one. Atlanta sucked ass this year.
Yeah, I think the only 2 things I would mention before we wrap this up is the Bengals. I think I like what the Bengals did to begin the draft. Joe Burrow, obviously, but you get him a weapon in T. Higgins that could go up and get the ball. Very similar to AJ Green in that way, the catch radius.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. So, and then, I mean, you're adding the offensive line after that. But Nate mentioned the best center in the draft, which the Wisconsin center very good, but Cesar Ruiz is the best center in the draft, and that brings me to the Saints. What they did with the limited amount of picks was very impressive. So, yeah, if anybody has anything to add, we just did that. So let the people know where to find you. Jackson, you start us off.
So my Twitter is at Jackson_Jolovec, JALOVEC.
All right, Mike.
Big Recon on Sports, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public. First, in the middle of this, I want to give a shout out, Frank. That was my 50th episode last night, or Thursday night that we did. So thanks for being a part of it.
All right, great. Thank you for having me on.
And the YouTube channel, Big Rican on Sports.
All right, Nate. Run the script.
Nate_Lugo24 on Instagram. Follow. Click the huddle link in the bio. Make sure to watch that if you get a chance. Also, big shout out Frank still letting me get that opportunity to be on the podcast. It's amazing. I love doing DB breakdowns. And yeah, Nate_Lugo24. Watch that playlist.
All right. So before we wrap up, we have 1:20 left on the Zoom call, and I think the first thing I want to say is this draft process has a bunch of things in my life taught me that I don't know anything. So it's just I'm learning every day. I'm gonna put content out, and it's gonna be me learning. So if I sound stupid, it's me going through the reps. I'm 17. You know who? Like I said, I made the joke with Nate. Who gave a 16-year-old a podcast? I could say whatever I want, and it's just gonna be here. So, but you know all the socials, you know where to find us. Look forward to a bunch of Frank's film rooms and Nate's DB breakdowns. That's about it. Peace to all. Stay safe. I know we're in a weird time, but it's a good time for content. So expect some more. Yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you to Mike, Jackson, and Nate for joining us. And
thanks, guys.
Oh yeah, Clubhouse. I really want to push the Instagram. So Clubhouse.cast on Instagram. Me and Jackson are doing the articles over at timeskewed.com. Dude, some great stuff, some great post-draft stuff, and we're going to continue all that. So thank you for listening. Peace. And